Yeah, we had been fighting for weeks just to get a simple yes or no vote on universal background checks and making sure that if a person is on the terror watch list where they can't fly, that they can't buy a gun. We could not get a vote. Finally, after trying over and over again, John Lewis, one of the other icons of the civil rights movement, we have one with us tonight, but John Lewis, he had enough. And it wasn't planned, really. He just decided to sit down, as he had, decades ago. And soon it was 10, then 20, then 50, then 100, then almost the entire Democratic caucus. We sat there for 26 hours just to make the point that we ought to at least have a yes or no vote, an up or down vote. We're not saying we have to win the vote, but we at least ought to have the right to say yes or no to something that seems so common sense. It was an incredible moment. It's unprecedented, really an historic moment. We literally sat on the floor of the House of Representatives. And I think for most of us, we had this sense that it was a moment that will make a difference. The thing I think that was most interesting to us is at about 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning, and we've been at it for maybe 12 hours, a couple of us wandered outside to the steps of the Capitol just to get a breath of fresh air. And there were thousands of people who had gathered, who were just watching on Facebook or on whatever. I don't know all of them, but they came because they just wanted to be there. They wanted to show some support and be a part of it. That gave us the energy to continue to fight, and that gives us the energy to continue to fight to this day. It's up to citizens. Our democracy, it's a representative form of democracy, but we can't just leave the democratic process to elections. When people get engaged, we respond. And so if we are going to make progress on whether it's gun violence or saving the planet from global warming, it's going to be because citizens activate themselves, that they get on the phone, they talk to their representatives, they don't sit back and be quiet and just wait for the election to vote them in or vote them out, but are engaged on a daily basis. That's the only way it ever works. That's how the Flint water crisis ultimately was resolved. Citizens had enough. They stood up. I think the sort of common sense steps would be to make universal the background check process. Right now, only about 60% of guns that are bought and sold in the United States are subject to a background check. So that means almost half of the guns could be sold to someone with a criminal record, somebody with mental illness, somebody who's going through real stress and wouldn't normally pass a check. Because there's this big loophole, those gun sales just continue. Most Americans, vast majority, would say yes, that makes sense. Closing the terror watch list loophole. I mean, we have a watch list for people who are considered dangerous. We don't let them fly on airplanes, but they can go and purchase a gun. So there are some steps that are just sort of common sense steps. Obviously, dealing with violence generally is something that goes beyond guns, but when violence occurs, to make sure that guns are not in the hands of the most dangerous people, it would be a big step